with Shredder serving a life sentence in a supermax prison, and the fall of the infamous Foot Clan, Krang had his back against the wall and needed to make a move. The Turtles were widely accepted by the city once they were discovered after their victory in the war for New York. And as a result, allies showed up from all over to help them put a stop to Krang's evil ways. Out of options and out of time, Krang deactivated the Technodrome and went into hiding. Although sightings of the fortress have been documented, the Technodrome nor Krang have been apprehended. In one final gamble to change the fate of his destiny, he modified the remaining supply of mutagen into a gas and used it to arm his giant laser. He aimed the laser at a black hole and fired, with speculation that he could mutate the timeline in his favor.
I don't think this is a normal hurricane. I mean, green lightning. I've never seen such a thing.
The sky doesn't lie. That storm will be the least of your troubles if you don't finish loading the specimens onto the ship.
Dr. Lawrence was normally a mild-mannered gentleman, but when it came to his work, there was little room for formalities. Right after college, he began assisting his father with his genetics research at Gemini Labs. Dr. Lawrence took over the lab after his father's passing and was forced to relocate the lab to an island a few miles off the New York coast due to his controversial experiments. Dr. Lawrence was outcasted by his colleagues after Gemini Labs began using mutagen, which they discovered at a meteorite site. Not only did they unethically experiment with potentially dangerous substances, they conducted their research on animals, most of which did not survive the trials. Just as he finished his sentence, the sky exploded with a bright flash of green lightning, followed by a rumble of thunder that could be felt throughout the island. The lab staff picked up speed as they continued to transport the specimens from the lab to the ship. It didn't take long for the rain to start falling, sending the crew into a frenzy. Light sprinkles turned into stinging raindrops as the wind strengthened, causing poor visibility and everything to be slick. Among the chaos, the loud crash of glass breaking snatched the attention of the employees.
Code white. Code white.
The alarm repeated.
Find the specimens, damn it.
Dr. Lawrence ordered. Lying near the shards of broken glass and camouflaged in the elements was a mother turtle nestling her babies. All of a sudden, she began to glow, causing the little ones to flee. That's when a crewmate noticed the glow and alerted the staff. Lightning struck a nearby tree, causing pandemonium amongst the employees.
We're out of time. Grab what you can and hurry.
Advised the captain. Fearful of the mother's glow, the crew gathered only the babies and boarded the ship. The mother turtle, paralyzed by sadness, could only watch helplessly as they split up her family and prepared to embark. A rustling sound could be heard coming from the bush next to the mother turtle, but she stood there undisturbed. A baby turtle that a crew member left by mistake emerged from the bush. He walked up to his mother and attempted to get her attention, but failed. The poor mother, heartbroken, stood there in a state of shock, unable to even notice her youngest son pleading for her attention. After his failed attempts, he also noticed his brothers being carried off, and could do nothing but watch, helplessly, frozen by his mother's side. As the storm's full force made impact on the island, the two watched the vessel depart and make its way cautiously through the turbulent waters until it disappeared past the stormy horizon. Even though the captain had navigated ships through some of the most treacherous conditions imaginable, he was no match against the freakish storm. A giant flash of lightning lit up the sky. The monstrous wind gripped the puny vessel and submerged it into the water, turning Dr. Lawrence and Gemini Labs into a mere memory. The morning finally arrived, bringing the end of the violent storm with it. Although the island took relentless punishment throughout the night, a gentle calmness now flowed throughout the land. The little turtle, still by his mother's side, was awakened by the warm rays of the gleaming sun. The melodic rhythm of the waves left him in a trance, for his mysterious journey into the sea was long overdue. However, the idea of leaving his disheartened mother would never cross his mind. In addition, he was starving and could only assume his frail mother was hungry as well. The young reptile decides a little breakfast would benefit them both. He rubs his head against his mother's, indicating he would return and walk towards the swampland near the shoreline, where they were abandoned. As he approached the swamp, he was greeted with an array of smells of the foods that awaited him. The ripe berries teased his senses, as did the fish in the pond, but all of a sudden a familiar aroma snatched his full attention. As he scurried toward the scent, he knew immediately it was the delicious, glowing slurry that the lab staff used to feed him and the other animals that lived at Gemini. He stopped at one of the many puddles that splattered the marsh grass and devoured it. Instantly invigorated, he moved from one puddle to the next until he was full. The re-energized turtle knew the ooze would rejuvenate his mother and hurried back to her with a mouthful of the delicious food. As he eagerly approached his mother, he was startled by her loud cries of agony. A flock of seagulls had begun attacking her ravenously, seeing that she made an easy meal in her poor state. The young turtle raced toward her and did his best to protect his mother from the assault. The bombardment continued until the hungry flock became frustrated and flew away. The brave turtle realized his mother would not be safe here and spent the rest of the day moving her somewhere less dangerous. Exhausted by the enormous task, he lay next to his mother and stared at the twinkling stars, growing angry at the thoughts that flickered in his mind. How can life be so cruel? When will his mother get better? When will her children return? He was sure that would solve everything. Although anger burned inside him like a fire, it didn't take long for him to fall asleep. Later on that night, he had a dream. The loud screeching of enormous birds could be heard echoing across the pitch-black sky, circling above him, their numbers growing as they continued to call out to each other. Despite being outmatched, it was optimism and not fear that filled every fiber of his being. In this vision, he can now see himself, or maybe a version of himself that dwelled deep within. He had grown. He had grown into a warrior and was now unrecognizable. As the birds approached, the being opened his eyes and let out a savage roar. Startled by the loud sound, the alarmed turtle woke up and realized it wasn't real. Checking on his mother by his side, he noticed immediately she was gone. In a state of panic, he spotted marks in the ground leading deep into the swamp and followed them as fast as he could. In what seemed like an eternity, he had found her at last. As he approached his mother, it became clear that she had struggled, and to his disbelief, all that remained was her shell. Just as he began to process what might have taken place, he suddenly gasped for air as he felt something wrap around his neck and squeeze. As he tried to retreat back into his shell, the large snake made itself present with a loud hiss as he gazed into the eyes of his prey, squeezing even tighter. Unable to move or even breathe, the poor turtle was helpless. He struggled a bit longer until the pain and the fear quickly began to fade, along with the rest of the world around him. He found solace thinking of his mother during his final moments. The same comfort he felt at Gemini Labs in the glass tank that was home to his little family. With no regards to the fact that all that surrounded him were the faces of hopelessness and despair of the other animals around, his sweet mother offered endless consolation while captive in the clear cage. And now she was gone, savagely taken, a death she didn't deserve, a death he would surely avenge if he only had more time and a fair chance. There wasn't a speckle of peace inside him as his soul left his physical body. Only a burning hatred, a hate so pure, it took over. A blinding light pierced through death's veil of darkness. He opened his eyes as energy surged through his body. Surrounded by a glowing aura, he began to scream in agony as he felt his body began to transform. The snake released the turtle in astonishment, a mistake that he would pay for in short time. The aura faded away as the metamorphosis was complete. The newly transformed turtle stood there, confounded. Was this death? Absolutely not. In fact, he felt more alive than he ever had. He stood up on his hind legs and roared at the snake in anger, then tackling it to the ground, hitting it like a freight train. Fueled by rage, he quickly grabbed the stunned snake and pulled it toward the pond, drowning it in a fit of fury and blacking out right after from exhaustion.